Have you ever thought that someone loved you but stayed silent? Have you noticed something in their eyes that was never spoken, as if the silence itself screamed a truth they didn't dare to hear? Perhaps it's not the words that are missing, but the inner permission to speak them. And what if what you interpret as indifference is actually fear? Not just any fear, but the kind that comes from the unconscious, shaped by old scars they don't even know they carry. You're about to enter a territory where love exists but does not manifest, and the question isn't whether they love you, it's why they still haven't been able to admit it. The truth, the one no one tells you, is that unspoken love isn't weakness, it's psychological captivity. It's a feeling trapped between the desire to reveal itself and the panic of being rejected. There are men who love so deeply, so intensely, that they can't even name what they feel. They prefer silence over the risk of ruin, distance over emotional nakedness. But why? What happened down there in the recesses of time and soul to turn love into a secret? Carl Jung said that what is not made conscious comes back as fate. And perhaps that's what you're living now. Not a love story, but a psychic mirror. He's not avoiding you, he's fleeing from himself. He isn't cold. He's frozen in his own shadows. Every confused gesture, every interrupted closeness, every glance that lingers a second too long, all of this is symbolic language he speaks through what he doesn't say. But do you know how to listen to silence? There's a hidden truth behind ambiguous behavior, a dance of closeness and retreat, a cycle that repeats. And you feel at the center of something much greater than it seems. What if he's testing his own limits? What if every day by your side he's fighting not against you but against a ghost that keeps him from simply speaking? This isn't just a love story. We are facing an archetype, the wounded lover. A man torn between the impulse to love and the instinct to protect, and he will only be whole when he allows himself to be vulnerable. But beware, there is something that hasn't been revealed yet, a specific, subtle sign that almost no one notices, and that always reveals when a man loves but is afraid to say it. It's this sign that turns doubt into certainty, and it's closer than you think. But be careful. If you blink, if you skip even 1 second of this video, you might never see it, because sometimes the key to understanding someone is hidden where you least expect it. He never said it out loud. No promises, no declarations, no "I love you" spoken aloud. But there's something in his actions that seems to go beyond what words could ever express. You notice it even when you try not to. He remembers small things, things even you have forgotten. The way you hold your cup when you're anxious, the song you let play for 5 minutes before changing it, the name of that colleague who made you cry on an ordinary day. Why does he remember? And more importantly, why does that move you more than any beautiful words ever spoken by someone who talked just for the sake of talking? Because the unconscious never lies. Carl Jung said that everything meaningful, even when denied by reason, will find a way to reveal itself. And maybe that's what you're feeling. Love is there, in the cracks, in the space between what he does and what he denies feeling. He doesn't say it, but he cares. He doesn't declare it, but he watches, and there's no way not to feel that something is being said in the silence. Something more honest, more raw, more real. That's when everything becomes blurry inside you, because it feels like he knows you in a dimension not everyone has access to. And that in itself is already too intimate to be a coincidence. But here lies the conflict. If he feels so much, why doesn't he speak? Why does he turn affection into code? Maybe because for him, love is dangerous territory, a labyrinth more frightening to enter than to stand outside and observe. For some, to love is to touch a wound. It's the risk of reliving buried pain. He has learned with great difficulty that exposing what one feels means becoming vulnerable. And vulnerability for someone who has been crushed by it is like walking naked through a battlefield. So he loves in silence, like someone holding something precious between their fingers, but afraid of losing it by naming it. Yet no matter how much he avoids words, his unconscious betrays him every time he remembers how much you love bread, every time he sends that message at the exact moment you're feeling down, without you having to say a word. Every time he listens carefully to something that seemed like a passing comment, but he kept it as if he were recording a secret map. He's not just listening to you, he's decoding you, studying you in silence. And it's exactly this kind of attention that reveals what he himself is trying to hide. Someone who doesn't feel, doesn't observe like that, someone who doesn't love, doesn't remember so much. But does he truly know he's in love, or is he only feeling its effect without naming the cause? Because there's something sacred in remembering details, something that transcends logic and reveals where the soul rests when no one is watching. He may never have said he misses you, but why does he know the name of your childhood dog? Why does he notice when you change the way you tie your hair? It's not about memory, it's about presence. It's about affection that seeps into everyday life in a way that's invisible, yet inevitable, as if somewhere deep down he has already accepted the love. He just doesn't know how to handle this truth. And now you're here, sitting with a burning doubt. Is this care love or just kindness? But since when does kindness carry this weight? Since when does a simple gesture make your heart race and shake your sense of certainty? You feel it. And that feeling changes everything. No matter how hard he tries to hide it, disguise it, avoid it. Love, when it's real, shows. Even if it's in the form of a cup of coffee just the way you like it. Even if it's in the tone of his voice when he asks if you slept well. Even if it's simply the way he remembers. Always, there's always something deeply revealing in those small moments when he shows jealousy. Not the possessive, obvious, childish kind, but the kind of jealousy that slips through the cracks of logic, that emerges in slightly averted eyes, in silences that last a little too long, in questions that seem too casual, not to carry a hidden tension. He might say, everything's fine, maybe he pretends not to care. But his body reveals what his mouth tries to suppress. Because the unconscious acts before censorship kicks in. And when the fear of losing someone you love takes over, control is lost, even if he fights to keep it. You mention another man, and he laughs, but his eyes don't follow. You bring up a message you received, and he changes the subject too quickly. It's not anger, it's not accusation, it's discomfort. A subtle tension, like that of someone who senses a threat they can't quite name. He feels the risk that someone else will see in you what he sees, the risk that someone might take the place he pretends not to want. But it's in that space, between what he pretends and what he fears, that the truth lives. Because no one feels jealousy over something that doesn't matter. And no one fears losing something they don't love. Not even in silence. It's the kind of jealousy no one talks about, because it's not even admitted. It isn't allowed to be shown, maybe not even to himself, but he's shaken. And that discomfort speaks louder than any formal declaration. It's at that point you realize he's emotionally involved, even if pride, insecurity, or old wounds stop him from opening up. Every time he tries to act indifferent and fails, every time someone else's name affects him more than it should, it's as if he's saying through his silence, I see you, I care, and that scares me more than I'd ever dare to admit. He doesn't say he loves you, but you feel something change when you're around. There's a quiet care, a presence that doesn't impose itself, yet is never absent. He doesn't offer himself as a hero, but he's there every time you need him, even if you never ask. He shows up when others disappear. He stays silent when you cry, but he hears everything. And when you think you're alone, he appears with a message, a ride, a small gesture that, for some mysterious reason, has the power to return a piece of you that was about to be lost. It's not a coincidence, it's a choice. And a silent choice is often more powerful than 1,000 words tossed into the wind. This constancy reveals a kind of affection that goes beyond the surface. He may seem distracted in other contexts, may even try to keep calm by pretending to be distant. But when your pain surfaces, he changes, as if summoned by something greater than his will. The love he feels may be trapped in words he doesn't know how to use, but it manifests in his actions. And these actions, however small they may seem, are made of surrender. He cares about your well-being in a way that doesn't demand recognition, applause, or reassurance. He simply wants, in some way, to be there when it matters most. That's rare, that's visceral, that's love in its rawest form. And deep down, you know it. Not because he said it, but because his body, his gestures, his time, all betray him. It's as if he's saying, I love you, every time he refuses to abandon you when the world is falling apart. There is something deeply archetypal about this kind of silent love. The invisible protector, the hidden guardian. He acts behind the scenes of your life, holding the threads you don't even realize are about to unravel. And this, even if never spoken aloud, changes everything. Because someone who loves like this loves with the soul. And souls don't know how to lie. There are moments when he simply looks at you, and in that look something is revealed. Not just any look, casual or distracted, but the kind that seems to cut through layers, that doesn't stop at what's outside but searches for what's within. He doesn't compliment your appearance with words, but the way your eyes meet his carries an intensity that says more than words ever could. It feels like he's searching, as if he's asking without speaking, as if he wants to understand what even you can't explain. It's a silent gaze, but one that roars inside the soul. This kind of visual connection cannot be manufactured. It can't be faked, simulated, or repeated with just anyone. Maybe that's exactly why he sometimes looks away. Because part of him is afraid of what might happen if he keeps looking too long. As if, in that moment, all masks would fall, as if he were betraying himself, accidentally revealing what he's been hiding for so long. His gaze reveals an inner conflict between the desire to draw closer and the fear of being discovered. And yet, despite the fear, he keeps looking, as if, in watching you, he's found a piece of himself he hasn't seen in a long time. Love that cannot be spoken usually finds its way through the eyes. Jung said that what does not come to consciousness returns as fate. And maybe that's exactly what's happening when he stares for long seconds and then pretends nothing happened. He doesn't know how to explain it, but he knows how to feel. And by looking at you, he's trying to face that feeling, to understand it, process it, survive the storm that your mere existence stirs in him. The gaze is the portal through which this love tries to escape the prison where it's been locked away. And you feel it. Because in that look lives a confession. The purest, the rawest, the one he never had the courage to say, but that despite everything you've already heard, he shares his dreams with you, not necessarily with the word we, but you're there, implicitly, sewn between the lines of the futures he quietly imagines. When he talks about moving to another city and without realizing it, mentions a cafe that matches your style. When he dreams of a peaceful home far from the chaos and describes a room with wide windows exactly the way you like. He may not say, I want this with you, but your presence is woven into everything he imagines as peace. And that speaks louder than any formal proposal, because including someone in your future, even unconsciously, is a form of love. That kind of inclusion doesn't happen by accident. When someone fears love but still includes the other in their visions of the future, it means the feeling has already bypassed the walls of logic. It is the unconscious that manifests symbolically, building a reality where affection is possible, even if masked. Maybe he's still trying to understand what he feels. Maybe he doesn't even allow himself to form the full sentence in his mind. But the dreams he shares, even if vague, carry you with them. And when you are present even in what he has not yet experienced, That is already a sign of deep belonging. You notice it because even if he never says it directly, you feel he's taking you with him. And you don't bring someone into your dreams if that person is just another someone. He doesn't talk about the future with just anyone. He doesn't include just anyone in the narrative of his life. And the fact that you are there, in his ideas, in his plans, in his unspoken desires, shows that he has already recognized you as something important, even if he doesn't know why. You've become a reference point, a steady anchor in the chaos. And it's in this quiet presence, in this space, he gives you in his daydreams that love reveals itself without asking permission. His behavior changes when he's with you, not in a performative or artificial way like someone trying to impress, but in a nearly imperceptible, intimate way, as if he were letting his guard down without realizing it. His voice softens, his body leans subtly toward you. His gestures become more attentive, less mechanical. It's as if his presence adapts to yours, as if something within him silently recognizes that by your side there is a safe space. This subtle shift is revealing because no one lets their guard down where there is no connection. He's not just physically present, he's fully there, even when he tries to appear neutral. It's a deep psychological phenomenon. The unconscious reacts before consciousness. Carl Jung taught us that we are shaped by forces we often cannot name, and in those moments with you, he isn't performing, he's revealing who he is without masks, without the filters he uses with others. He laughs in a way he doesn't laugh with anyone else. He shares silences that would be awkward with others. And he stays even when there's no obvious reason to do so. Each of these behaviors, though not accompanied by declarations, reveals a truth that transcends language. You transform him. This transformation isn't only visible in how he acts, but in what he allows himself to feel. It's as if your presence briefly breaks through the armor he spent years building. You see him lighter, more sincere, and at the same time more vulnerable. Because loving in silence requires strength, but allowing yourself to be affected requires even more courage. And he allows it, not because he's made a rational decision, but because the bond between you touches parts of him that can no longer be ignored. He may not say it, he may never say it, but every time you're there and he changes, even just a little, it's love. It's a battle with fear, trying to emerge. He truly listens to you, not like someone who just hears words, but like someone who immerses himself in what is said, and especially in what is felt. He remembers conversations you don't even recall having. He refers to things you said offhandedly, as if they became sacred within him. This kind of listening is not common, nor accidental. It's the kind of attention that comes from real emotional connection, where the other person is not just background noise, but a living presence he has internalized. He supports you even when he seems distracted. And this form of listening is often a silent cry of love. Jung said that what touches us deeply nests in our unconscious, and that's exactly what happens when he remembers your details, your stories, your silences. You become a symbol, an emotional reference he cannot, and perhaps doesn't even want to, erase. And this constant recollection of what you've said isn't a rational effort, it's spontaneous affection. He cares about what you think, what you feel, what makes you smile or fall silent. He cares enough to hold it inside, because holding it inside is an act of love. Someone who loves in silence protects the memory of the other as if guarding a precious secret. This attentive listening reveals something even deeper. He wants to understand you. And wanting to understand is one of the purest forms of love. Even without declaring it, even without promising anything, he tries to decipher you. And in the end, that is rarer than beautiful words. Because words can be learned, but the desire to truly understand someone, to see the world through their eyes, is something that cannot be faked. He listens to you because you matter, because somewhere deep inside he already knows your voice belongs. And that place, however hidden, is where real feelings dwell. He shows you his vulnerability, even if he tries to hide it. It's not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but about the small cracks in the armor he's built over time. A longer sigh, a lost gaze, a hesitation in his voice. These gaps reveal more than he could ever say out loud. Because true vulnerability doesn't show itself by exposure, but through the silent trust he places in you, even without saying, "I trust you." It's a risk, an invitation into the unknown that he dares to accept just to be close, just to not feel alone in the whirlwind of emotions he's trying to conceal. This vulnerability also carries the weight of a deep fear, the fear of rejection, of not being understood, of opening up and getting hurt. It's a cruel paradox. He wants to open up, but fears the consequences of doing so. And this inner conflict makes his behavior sometimes contradictory. He may suddenly distance himself to protect himself, but he returns soon after, because what he feels is stronger than the fear. It's as if he dances between the need for protection and the desire to surrender. And every step in this back and forth is a silent sign that love is there, hidden beneath layers of insecurity. When he chooses to show vulnerability, even in brief, scattered moments, he's actually saying much more than words ever could. He's saying that you're different, that you're the person to whom he can allow those cracks to form. Because deep down he believes you won't use them against him. That silent trust is a rare and precious gift. And when you receive it, you hold in your hands a map to understanding love. A love that doesn't need to be declared to exist. A love that reveals itself in the careful surrender of what he fears losing the most, himself. Silent love is like an underground river flowing beneath the calm surface of the earth. It exists, it pulses, it carves caverns in the heart, even when it's invisible to the hurried eyes of the world. But for this river to surface, for it to become a stream tracing new paths, it takes courage. The courage to face one's fears, to cross the abyss of silence, and to allow words to become possible. Unspoken love is not absence, it's a presence contained, waiting for the spark that will release its flow. Fear, that invisible guardian of our weaknesses and insecurities, has the power to imprison love in the shadows. And how many loves are lost in that prison, forgotten between the desire to be revealed and the hesitation to be exposed. However, what remains unrevealed can begin to rot, take root in doubt, creating invisible cracks that only time can perceive. And that is true courage, to accept the risk of surrender, to embrace the possibility of failure, and to throw yourself into uncertainty, because silent love is a whisper that longs to be heard. And so the question arises, echoing in the soul. Have you ever experienced a love that was never expressed in words? How many times has silence spoken louder than any phrase ever spoken? How many times has the heart understood what the mouth didn't have the courage to say? These questions do not seek definitive answers, but instead invite reflection. Because each answer is a key, opening inner doors where love, silent or spoken, finds its true meaning. Allow yourself to feel that love is a dance between courage and fear, between what we show and what we hide, between what we whisper and what we leave behind. Don't let silence be the final word. Let it be the prelude to something greater, a veiled promise waiting for the right moment to bloom. In the space between the unspoken and the possible lies the power of transformation. The power to illuminate not only your own story, but the silence of many other hearts. If this message touched you, if these words awakened something long dormant, join this journey. Like this video as a gesture of recognition. Leave a comment to share your echoes of unspoken love. Share it so more souls can find this hidden light, and subscribe to continue exploring this universe where silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. After all, true love doesn't need to scream to be heard. It only needs to be felt.